In this lesson, I'll talk about the concepts you need to master in order to become a successful programmer. In order to become a successful programmer, to be able to produce working code, and to contribute to software development projects, there are a number of concepts you need to master. There are a number of fundamental concepts that are core to developing software. Listed on this slide are 8 key concepts. These include requirements analysis, knowledge of database management systems, and HTML for web development. Also included on the list are basic networking concepts, software testing, and knowledge of the software development lifecycle, or SDLC. The last 2 items on the list are object-oriented programming and detailed knowledge of your particular programming language of choice, such as C#, Java, or PHP. There are certainly other concepts that can be included depending on your career track, but the list on the slide represents the core of a foundational starting point. In the next few slides, I'll go through each one of these in more detail. Requirements analysis is a great place to start. With requirements analysis, you're recording exactly the features that the customer desires in your software product. This can be difficult to do because oftentimes customers do not know exactly what they want. An experienced programmer can help customers to determine their exact requirements and lead to a successful project. This can be done through such techniques as use cases, mock-ups, prototypes, and user stories. Many systems today are web-based systems. Much of the data behind these web-based systems is stored in a database, and much of the code is devoted to interacting with the database from the website. In order to effectively design these programs, you need to have a command of fundamental database concepts. These include database design, normalization, and SQL, or structured query language, and the syntax for select statements, insert statements, update statements, and delete statements. You will also need to master some type of programmatic access to the database from your programming language of choice. These include such technologies as ADO.NET, the Entity Framework, and the Java Database Connectivity, or JDBC. In order to effectively write code, you also need to master basic administration skills for a database. This will allow you to create new databases, back them up, and restore them. Another fundamental concept that programmers need to master is HTML, or Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is the basic building block of all web-based systems in production today. Skills that you'll need to master are the basic syntax of HTML, design layouts with HTML, and the Document Object Model, or DOM. You'll need to understand such concepts as field validation and integrating JavaScript into your HTML code. Most programmers today also frequently use JavaScript libraries such as the jQuery library. This is also a necessary skill. Most of today's software products either interface with the internet or a local area network. This means that programmers need to have a basic understanding of how networks function. You'll need an understanding of how to interact with servers on a local area network or a wide area network. You'll also need to understand HTML protocols and how they interact over the internet. You'll also need to be familiar with the IP addressing scheme used on the internet, as well as the Domain Name Service, or DNS. Another aspect of networking that you'll need to be familiar with is how mobile devices interact with networks and their ability to periodically connect to a network. This results in special techniques that mobile devices need to be able to use to connect to the internet. This capability is called store and forward and is a very common need for these devices. One of the most common areas that's overlooked in software developing training is the area of software testing. Even though this area is often overlooked, it is one of the most important activities in a software development project. Delivering quality software that is reliable is a primary goal of almost every software development project. Programmers need to understand such concepts as unit testing, functional testing, integration testing, and user acceptance testing, or UAT. Without an effective software testing function, it's impossible to deliver quality working code. The next area to understand is that of the software development lifecycle, or SDLC. The SDLC process defines software development teams, how they use this to produce working code. There are many different process models that software development teams use. Some of the more common methods are the Agile methodology, the Scrum methodology, and waterfall development. Many companies will use their own proprietary model to develop software, but these are generally based on one of the methods mentioned above. Programmers must be familiar with these processes in order to be effective in a software development project. These processes define what programmers do on a daily basis in their job. Most of today's programming languages are based on object-oriented models. Because of this, programmers need to be familiar with object-oriented programming and design concepts. Included are such common concepts as objects and classes, inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation. The last but not least area that a programmer needs to be familiar with is their programming language of choice. You need to understand the syntax of your chosen language, such as Java or C#, and be able to translate requirements into working code based on the syntax of your language. This will require quite a bit of practice to master the syntax of the language of choice. In summary, there are a number of key concepts that a programmer needs to master. This may sound like an overwhelming list, but if you're able to master these concepts, you'll be able to function as an effective programmer. This will allow you to meet customer expectations in terms of delivering the required features of the software, building software on time, and building it on budget. In the next few lessons, I'll lay out where you can get the training to master these concepts and how you can practice these for the required certification tests. This concludes this lesson on concepts. I hope it gives you an idea of the concepts you'll need to master in order to become a good programmer. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lesson.